The appearance of the LG Velvet is the first thing that stands out pretty much over and above just about every smartphone on the market right now. It's striking, it's handsome, it's narrow, it's tall, it's lightweight, and it's easy to hold in one hand, even though it's not necessarily easy to use in one hand, but that's okay. Most large smartphones are not easy to use in one hand, but we use them anyway because of the benefit of the large screen. All of that said, is this phone worth your hard-earned dollars? So we'll talk about that in this video. We'll talk about specifications. We'll talk about my experience with this phone. And please watch all the way through so you can get a better idea as to whether or not this is worth your money. So you're seeing some of the specifications in the background, and it's the Snapdragon 765G. That's what makes this phone not quite flagship and more in the upper mid-range tier section. But do keep in mind that this phone is dual screen capable, so if it's going to run dual screens with the Snapdragon 765G, then it will run the phone by itself just fine. It's got a 60 Hz refresh rate, and so it, combined with 6 gigabytes of RAM, combined with LG's user interface, its version of Android, which is cleaner than what it's been in years past, you get a pretty smooth day-to-day experience with an asterisk. And I'm going to come back to that with an asterisk. Now, yes, I know that the Google Pixel 5, for example, also has 6 gigabytes of RAM and the 765G processor. It has a 90 Hz refresh rate, but that screen is smaller. So advantage to LG in this case, because I'd rather have a larger screen than 60 Hz than the smaller screen with 90 Hz, even though 90 Hz is really nice. Optical fingerprint sensor. You got to lay your finger on there just right and hold it for a moment. So it's not the fastest, but if you get your finger on there just right, it'll work for you 9 out of 10 times at least. It's got a dedicated Google Assistant button as well that you can use from the lock screen. You don't even have to go inside the phone, just press and hold and ask Google whatever it is that you need to ask. So if that's a benefit to you, it's there anyways. Not all the phones have that. So this is the LG V60, and I inserted this in the video because if you're curious, how does the LG Velvet stack up against the LG V60? Well, I'll leave like a link in the description or one of those information cards. When you're done with this video, take a look at that video, then that way you can compare and contrast the two. I can just tell you, maybe spoiler alert, the LG V60 is the superior of the two phones. Now remember that asterisk I was talking about when I was talking about the day-to-day performance of the Velvet? Well, this is what I'm referring to, and I'm going to loop this as I explain. So this is two separate instances, and you're going to see the video twice on each one. But this actually happened 5 times, but I only recorded 2 instances. And in each case that I have recorded here, this happened with the YouTube app. Just using the YouTube app like normal. Next thing I know, I see this. And then, as you can see, I can still scroll up and down, but using the Android gestures, I can't go back, I can't go home, I can't do anything. So the only option that I have is to lock the screen and then unlock it, and then as you can see, it goes back to normal. So here it is again. You can kind of move things around on the screen. You can kind of scroll up and down, but what good is it if you can't see what's going on? So that's how I would get out of it, is to lock the screen and then unlock it. Again, this actually happened 5 times, twice with YouTube, 3 times. I can't remember the other apps I was using. Why? I don't know. Even with software update, this takes place, or this took place. And within the first week of me using the phone, it took place. Maybe I just had a bad unit, I don't know, but I can only tell you that that has been my experience with the LG Velvet when it comes to day-to-day performance. Is that something that you have to concern about? Maybe not, but I definitely have to call it out. So now, it does have a headphone jack, and while it has the LG 3D sound engine, which on the LG Velvet sounds very good, does not have that 32-bit quad DAC that LG has been touting for the last few years on their flagship phones. But I'll tell you what, the sound engine, the LG sound engine, makes those speakers sound very good, and it also makes a headphone jack without the quad DAC sound very good with your wired headphone. Whether they're cheap or high quality headphones, doesn't matter. It sounds, the output from the headphone jack is great. So don't feel like you're missing anything just because there's not that high quality DAC that LG you might be accustomed to from previous flagship phones. LG's 6.8-inch OLED display is great, and so the display and the audio experience makes for a great overall multimedia experience, particularly when your internet is not buffering. So don't pay any attention to that because I'm just in a bad spot. But when your internet's working and the streaming is working like it should, great multimedia experience. That's one area where the LG Velvet excels. Okay, so far what we've learned here about the LG Velvet, what we've talked about, what we've covered, is the LG Velvet worth the price? What do you think so far? And now for the cameras. Now, not much of a front-facing camera, guys. Let me just tell you that the front-facing camera, 16 megapixels. It can record up to 1080p at 30 frames per second. Now, in the rear-facing cameras, you have three of them. You've got a 48 megapixel main camera, 8 megapixel wide-angle camera, and then a 5 megapixel depth sensor or time-of-flight camera, whichever one you want to refer to it as. And here's a couple of shots in night view or night mode. The camera app itself looks very much like the LG V60. Almost all the same options with some exceptions, a couple of notable ones. The LG Velvet only records 4K at 30 frames per second. Then while it shoots 1080p at 60 frames per second, you can't adjust the zoom. So you're just limited to whatever camera it's set on. You can manipulate the audio, that is, you can zoom into your subject and then it'll adjust the audio appropriately. So you do have that function. And hey, look at this rabbit. I get pretty easily distracted, as you can see. Getting back to the LG Velvet's camera, there's quite a bit of versatility and quite a bit of options in here. Yes, there's some things that are lacking, but do consider this is not a flagship phone. Remember, this is sort of that upper mid-range tier type of phone. Well, to that point, if you're coming from, say, an LG 4 or G4 or G5, and you're coming to this, you're probably going to see a huge jump in improvement as far as the camera performance is concerned. Because, I mean, keep in mind, back then, the LG G4 and G5, they were about the same price as what the Velvet is today. And the Velvet is a mid-range phone, whereas those were flagships back of the past. But if you're coming from, say, the LG G8 or even the G8X, the LG V40 or V50, you may not see this as an upgrade. So, I'd be leery of making that sort of move into the Velvet unless, those phones just flat broke on you and you want to get another LG phone. So who is this phone for? And, that's kind of a tough call because, this is a good phone. Don't get me wrong. The little glitches aside that we saw early in the video with the YouTube app. It's got a great OLED screen. It's got great audio. It's got the water and dust resistance, IP68 rating. It's got good cameras, not great cameras, but good cameras. I didn't even talk about battery life, but the battery, it'll last you all day. Under heavy usage, you'll still be able to eke through a full day. So it's got good battery life. And then under moderate usage, you're easily going to make it through a day and go into the next day if you don't charge. It's got wireless charging, so if that's important to you, like that option, it's there. And you have the benefit of dual screen if you want to purchase that, or if you're fortunate enough to get it on whatever sort of promotion that the carrier's got going on. So you have all those things going. You also have LG's second year promise, and so that is available too. You've got 2 years of warranty from the manufacturer. But then you got to think about things like that software glitch that I showed earlier. Will that be a day-to-day issue that you have to be concerned about? And then LG's track record when it comes to Android updates. Are you going to get more than one update? When are you going to get that one update? Right now, LG's track record is not too great when it comes to that sort of thing. Is the LG Velvet worth your hard-earned money? If you're a loyal LG fan, you'll probably really enjoy this phone. But do know that there are some great options for right around the same price. Thanks for watching.